excited again to speak to Angela because so much has happened in such a short amount of time, which shows you that we're really onto something here, because when things move in that way, synchronicity just keeps on showing up, which is so exciting. And at Healthy Whole Humans, we are about creating a better world for kids. And what better person to speak to, again, is Angela, who is actively participating in that movement and this new world and creating a better world for kids. So, Ange, thanks for chatting again.
Thank you for having me on again. It's nice. I love chatting with you about every world, everything, and looking at the positive things that we can do. So I don't like to focus on what we saw the negative, and we know what's out there. So we're just focusing now on all the actions that we can take, and that's the important thing.
Thank you. And I completely agree. It's all right. We know what's going on. There's, a lot of us now that have done the research and looked into what's been going on in all these hundreds and thousands of years. And we've done all that and we're like, okay, that's happened. But now what are we going to do? How are we going to create the new? And I just want to focus on building that bridge to the new world. So when people are ready, we're like, we're over here, come join us.
That's right.
We create the new, and you are creating that new with what you're doing is creating a whole new way for kids to learn and be able to be surrounded in really safe environments. So tell us what is happening.
Okay, so since the last time we spoke, the book was classified, but as a general, what I found was that all the books in our libraries, or the majority, are unclassified and unrestricted. So even the adult books as well. So there's a number of books that are sexually explicit in our libraries, and they're unrestricted for all people to go in and borrow, including our kids. So they can go to any library with your family, one card network cards, go to any library, borrow the books, pick them up off the shelf and self-checkout. It's that simple. You don't go to your librarian and they scan the book. The books have, because they're not classified, they don't have the correct consumer advice on the front covers like a video or game would. So that's the issue as well.
And Angela, just sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to talk about our last chat and showing that book, which we ended up having to blur out. So if you haven't seen that video, please watch it, because even though we've had to blur out the images, Angela's narrated really well over those blurring, and you still get a real gist of what's inside that book. And having had lots of conversations since our last chat and showing people that video and showing people the book, because I had the file that I could show people, they cannot believe that this book exists and books like this do exist. Can we just talk quickly about that? There's a lack of awareness, I guess, is one point of it. And another one is a lack of, or a disbelief that these books even do exist. So how can we raise awareness to parents and adults that these books are real, they are being made, and there's a lot of them in these libraries?
They are. They're in the kids, teens, and adult sections. They're in the health and wellbeing, human body. Some of them are in the human reproduction. They're in the society area as well, or the culture areas. And some of them are in the graphic novels. And until you actually go in and have a look yourself, but some of them are in the schools as well. So initially, a couple of videos ago, we spoke about, what the steps I've taken. I did a deputation at my local council, and I gave examples of other books. So books for 2 to 14-year-olds. So they start to go into the gender and sexual orientation and identity, but they're not really sexually explicit, but it's more as they get older into the sex instruction books. There's a book called The Amazing True Story of How Babies Are Made. That was one example I used. And that's a Premier's reading challenge book for reception to Year 2. And it has 2 pages, the illustrations of making a baby, or love making, I can't remember what they titled it, shows 2 naked adult couples in a sexual position. On the second page, it shows full penetration, and how the bits fit together like a puzzle piece, and they describe it with full description. And that's really in the children's area, but being a reading challenge book, it would be in schools. Because
for 2-year-olds,
Year 2, so reception to Year 2, so 5 to 7-year-olds, and that's still quite young. for that. But that's not the only book. There's a number of other books I found about, where babies come from and all that sort of thing, where they go really more into detail. But the thing is, regardless of the target audience, they're still in the kids area unrestricted.
Yeah.
Or they're in or the other books for teens that go more into sex instruction. They go into oral sex, anal sex, vaginal sex, masturbation, the use of sex toys, how to do photographic sexting, how to research pornography. And of course, the adult stuff is, just as full on as the teen stuff is. I don't see much difference. And then you've got the graphic novels. So your fictional stories. There are some manga. So that's like the Japanese anime. There's some manga that has adult themes in it. And they show whatever you'd find in a MA R-rated movie probably. And then there's a superhero comic book series. And they're right next to the Superman and Batman comics. That's a graphic novel series called The Boys. And the video adaptation of that is R-rated. But the images in this graphic novel are in the graphic novel probably just as graphic as the video adaptation. Some of those being classified, but they're M-rated. Some of those were category 1. The category 1s now have disappeared from the library since I've emailed that library. But there are other versions in that series. I don't know, they're M-rated, but they are quite graphic. I don't think they should have the whole series in there. I think all of those books that have adult themes and that sexually explicit, where sex and nudity are linked, where there's sexual arousal, all of those books, I think they need to be in a restricted area where you can borrow them by request and place it on hold, but you need to have, if you're a child, you need to have a parent or guardian or an adult there to borrow and pick it up from the desk.
Which is what you've put in your petition, haven't you? So please tell us about your petition.
So let's share screen. So the petition title is Borrow by Request for Sexually Explicit Publications in Our Public Libraries, One Card Network and School Resource Centres. Pretty much the number of publications held, large number of publications held in our public libraries and school resource centres that are not classified by the Australian Classification Board and so do not have the correct consumer advice on the covers, including publications that have a target audiences for minors, persons under 18, and publications that may meet the definition of a submittable publication, which you can read what that is, to books that are more likely to be legally restricted to adults, like a pornographic magazine. That's a submittable publication. So the request is, 1, that all sexually explicit publications to be available to only borrow by request, and that sexually explicit publications be removed from display in our public libraries and school resource centres and placed in a restricted area.
So get them off the shelves. They're not easily accessible. You have to actually go looking for them.
Well, you have to place it on hold. Okay. So if you
you'd have to actively seek it out to get it.
You have to actively seek it out, place it on hold, and pick it up from the desk.
With an adult.
With an adult. If you're a child, you have to be accompanied by an adult or parent guardian.
Awesome. And this is for all books. We're not just targeting one book. It's looking at all
sexually explicit publications, which includes illustrations or pictures that are realistic or cartoon images where sex and nudity are linked. So it's not just nudity on human body. It's nudity images that are linked with sexual activity. That's pretty much the difference. And sexual activity, that includes everything that you can think of, even fetishes, how to use sex toys and research pornography and everything like that. People can read this as well. And also what I want to request is that all publications, so books that are legally restricted to adults, are all pornographic books, if they're in the cataloguing system in our public libraries, to be fully removed from our public libraries because they belong in an adult bookshop. And what I found, I was talking about The Boys, a bit earlier. So The Boys Omnibus Volumes 1, 3, and 5 are Category 1, which are legal adult restrictions that need to be wrapped and sealed. Now, some of those have been removed already, but that's just an example of how those books came into our libraries and they were never recommended to the board for classification. Bernard Gaynor from Queensland, Logan, Queensland, he was able to get enforcement in Queensland to recommend the book for classification review. That's how that one those book series got classified. So I think, and I'm fairly certain, that if they audited our libraries. So that's one of the things, is a request that our school and public libraries be audited for submittable publications. So if they find any of these books that should be legally restricted to adults, then those books need to go through classification review. And it's in the legislation. They're supposed to be doing this anyway. It should be really up to the distributors to do this. Library is essentially a distributor. So I've been going around to libraries because there's a couple of events I'm going to where I'm going to actually bring some physical books to show people, from the kids, teens and adults. One of the books I found in the adults area, but it's also a graphic novel, and I think, and I have to double check, I think the intended target audience is for teens, but 2 libraries have put their own consumer advice on it, and they've put an R rating on the catalogue, but not on the cover, just on the catalogue. But the thing is, so an R rating with video is a legal adult restriction. So obviously they think that book should be legally restricted to adults, but R ratings don't exist in publication or book classifications. You've got unrestricted, you've got M-rated, recommended for 15, which is unrestricted, and you got legally restricted pornographic books, which are categories 1 and 2. There's nothing in between.
And they're in adult bookshops. They shouldn't be even in a public library.
Yeah, that's right. They should be wrapped. They have those, those opaque covers, and they're sealed.
Yeah. But they shouldn't even be in a public library. They're in an adult bookshop.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think we would find there's a number of books in our libraries for adults and maybe for teens as well that might fit that definition. And I reckon there are some. You could see in the cataloguing searches.
So there's 15 signatures that each piece of paper holds.
So the petition needs to be printed, and then we need original signatures in pen. No electronic signatures will be accepted. And then once the petition is signed, the original petition needs to be posted. The address has been provided in a number of places.
I'll put it in the comments below as well. I've gotten some questions about the address. Suburb and postcode is enough, isn't it?
Yes, that will be enough. I've been told that the full address is ideal, but postcode and suburb is sufficient enough.
And people from other states, this is for South Australia specifically, but from other states sign it?
This is for South Australian residents. I put that from we, the undersigned residents of South Australia.
Okay, so just South Australian residents for this one.
Yep. We'll see how that goes, but hopefully they will bring it into Parliament and maybe, act on all of the requests that we want. We need a minimum of 10,000 signatures, and I think we can get that. I reckon we can very easy. I want the petitions to be returned by the 20th of October. After that, once I've got all of them, then I'll be submitting them myself. I don't want them to get lost. I want them to come to me, to PO box address. Yeah, so we'll take it from there and see how that goes.
They've made it clear that this is only going to happen, and we are only going to move forward in talking about creating a new world. It's only going to happen when we participate in this new world and making it happen. They're not going to do it off their own backs. Whether we go into whether they've got morals or ethics themselves, well, they're showing that they don't, because then they've said to you, we're not going to do anything unless enough people arc up about it.
That's the response I sort of got when I applied for the fee waiver, and it was denied because there was no public media, mainstream media coverage on that book. And that's why I had to pay the fee to get this book classified and not coming back unrestricted. So that's one element. We need to have public support, public, a talk and a display for this sort of thing. And like I said in the last video, I'm not a big believer in banning books, but I do think we should restrict books. I don't like to interfere with other people's free will either, but they're interfering with ours in a way. They're putting whatever they want where kids can easily get accessible with, and I have to, as a parent, tiptoe around whatever they do and try to adjust my lifestyle and teach my kids, because these books weren't around when we were kids. There was maybe 1 or 2. You wouldn't find them. There's hundreds of them now. So we shouldn't have to adjust our lives just to suit a certain minority of people who want these books.
And it's like, why do they want these books? And this is part of what we've learned over the last X amount of years is it's the small incremental things that they push in front of us. And you're like, oh, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Well, that's what we've been saying for decades. That doesn't matter, doesn't matter. And now we are at this point where so much is in front of our faces. And either we've become conditioned to be like, that's okay. We're drawing a line in the sand right now. I'm like, that is not okay. And for anyone that looks after children or has children or even knows children, you saw one of these books, you would be completely disturbed. Everyone I've shown is mortified. So if you don't think this relates to you, it truly does. If you care about the well-being of children and you don't agree with what's being put out there, if you do, then I guess that's in another camp and you live that life. That's, we're not all the same. But for the people out there that see this and do not feel comfortable with their children seeing it or children that, that they look after seeing it, then it's really up to us to
we're the adults.
Speak up.
We're the adults in the community. Our kids are inheriting this world. And if this is the standard of the world we live in now, what's the standard going to be in the future? Because you can tell the future from looking at the past and the present, and you see the progress. And these books didn't just suddenly appear. They happened over a period of time, and so did a lot of things. A lot of changes that have slowly come in, that pot of hot water and with frogs sitting in a pot, we're slowly being conditioned.
It's nice and
simmering. And until we get so hot, we need to jump out. You look at bringing this new world forward. In our own personal lives, I can make a conscious decision to change my lifestyle. I can make a conscious decision within my family, and we can discuss our decision to homeschool. It's theirs and mine. We worked it out, and this is the lifestyle we want. That's just one example. We've got our own garden, growing our own fruit and vegetables and herbs, and we have chickens, so we have our own eggs, and we're consciously making a difference in our own personal world. And then you've got a community level that you need to think about too. The adults in the community need to think about this, not the kids, because they're the ones we need to change the social conditioning. We need to change our social conditioning. We got to think about the things that we want in the world, what we don't want and what we do want. And we need to work towards the things that we do want. And there's some part that we have to participate in the overall systems, and some parts we can choose not to. But there's some things we have to make changes in a whole, and we have to break our own social conditioning, because that's even part of our own personal growth. As individual human beings, we can't wait for Superman or to come and rescue us, or the Care Bears.
Fairies.
We can't wait for them to do the Care Bear stare on everyone and just uplift everyone. We need to
love the Care Bears.
I love Care Bears too, but we can't wait for on a state and federal level. We have our politicians, we have people we elect to do that, to be our voice for us. But there's a lot we can do on a community level.
It's undoing a lot of programming and learning and conditioning that we've been through the system of school's a place where they condition you, your job's a place, university's a place, like all these, we've been conditioned and programmed, brainwashed, if you will, into someone else is going to look after it for us. Someone's going to look after us getting food. Someone's going to look after raising our kids. Someone's going to look after this. And if we really want to create this new world, we've got to start asking questions, actively engaging in our lives, actively engaging in the community to create the world that we want. Where do we want our food coming from? What do we want? Instead of raising children, let's nurture them to be who they are. So we've got to actively participate in making this happen, or it's just not going to happen.
It's like, with the school systems, a lot of parents don't know exactly what kids are being taught in schools. They just trust. It's an automatic trust, because teachers and education staff or people who work in schools have to have a child-related police clearance, and you expect, because of their qualifications, that they know exactly what they're doing. And it's true. I mean, there are some really good teachers out there, but it's what they're teaching, what they're being told to teach. Some people are not happy. I mean, there's a lot more people I'm speaking with who are leaving the schooling system and homeschooling. And I think there's a lot of people who are aware of what's going on and they hear things, but those problems are not being addressed.
So just on that point, Angela, what you're saying about people are trusting, it's like we trust our doctors. It's like, we've got to engage again. We've got to completely, fully engage and ask questions and get curious. What is my child learning at school? What are they teaching? The teachers are just other human beings just like us. They need to pay their mortgage. They will do what they need to do to keep their job. And if that that means doing something they feel uncomfortable with, then if they're still in the system, that is what they're doing. Because
That's
I've known teachers that have walked away because they didn't feel comfortable. So every other teacher that is in the system still feels comfortable with passing on the curriculum that they've been told they have to pass on.
That's right.
So as a caregiver, as someone that looks after children, it's up to you to actively participate and engage in what is going on in that school, ask questions, get involved, and see for yourself whether you feel comfortable with that. And if you do, that's fine. And if you don't, then you can make informed choices.
That's right. And, you know, if you want, not every child likes the idea of homeschooling, and some want to stay in the schools. That's fine. But as parents, you can attend governing council meetings. They're run by parents. Parents in governing council, they make decisions on how resources in school is spent. So if there's a program in the school that's being taught or from a third party organisation or place, you have the say on whether that program is used or not, and you can actively participate. And it's the same with the teacher resources and student resources, you know, and also to and if you want school children to be a bit more whatever, if it's a better lunch menu in your canteen, you can make suggestions as a parent. But volunteers, schools like parent volunteers to be actively involved and work. And it's the same. And then you've got the other end with your local councils. If you don't like what's happening in your local area, go to your local council meetings and bring your concerns to councillors and your mayor. Be respectful, be polite. They're all people too. They go home, they have their own families. All right. We can't just start accusing them for things that you don't know that they've done. We have to be respectful and polite to everyone. That's the positive way forward.
And not just, I think it's the real not thinking or feeling like someone else is doing it for you, like to do it for yourself, create the life that you want and engage in all aspects of it.
And communicate with other like-minded people, families, people in your community or in your school community or your sport community, whatever that is. Find those like-minded people and discuss things, work out where do you draw the line for the things that you want to make changes with and what things can you be flexible with, because you're going to have to be flexible because we can't go black and white on everything. Sometimes we need to be in that grey area and be flexible because what's suitable for me isn't suitable for you, or what my needs are.
It's not a one size fits all. I think you said it perfectly about, you know, some kids want to be at school, fantastic. It's just if the parents and the caregivers are engaged in what's going on in that school instead of a government that we don't, who's the government? Who is this person writing this curriculum? And letting these third parties come in and run courses. Who are those people? We don't know them.
Even with the book classifications, I was thinking about this last night. The classification board members who review these books, you know, they might give a review and say, oh, this book's unclassified, unrestricted because it has educational merit. Well, I don't know the board members, but and that's in their opinion too. But what are their qualifications to decide what is educational merit? I don't know.
What's their situation that they're like just doing what they feel like they need to because they need a job too?
Yeah, so everyone's doing a job and they want to get paid. I don't know nothing about the board members, so I'm not going to assume anything. But, you know, we need that legislation and policies and everything like that. But at the end of the day, when you think about laws and policies on the foundational level, they came from our morals and values. Without them, everyone would be doing everything and everything they want to do, and no one would care without morals and values. So these laws and policies and everything, are they reflecting our morals and values? That's been changing quite a bit. Maybe how we view laws and policies and morals and values, maybe we view them all differently. But I think it's awareness. I think not many people are actually looking at things in detail. And I think once you start looking at things in detail and you think, well, how does, like I said last time in our last video, how does a manuscript that's sexually explicit end up on the bookshelves of our libraries unclassified and easily available? How does that happen and why does it happen are two different things. And we're the adults in the community, we're the ones that can vote. We're the ones that influence. When you got children around you, our children look at all the adults involved in their lives and they shape their worldview initially from parents and family members around them. And then all the adults in school So every adult in that child's life conditions them to think a certain way initially, but learning how to be flexible. So we're not black and white, we can be flexible and we can learn to grow. And then eventually the child takes over and creates their own opinions, their own thoughts, but they are conditioned initially, from parents and all of the adults in communities around us have an impact on that.
Which is, I feel like a whole other conversation, Angela, because I guess being aware that you are having that impact. And I think most adults would say they are, but then are you consciously having the impact that you would like is, we could go into another conversation about that, which plays in the same thing of just actively participating in your life.
If you want to make a change within your own life, you have to set your intention. What is your intention? What would your life look like? And then you have to think about, okay, this is what it will feel like. This is what it will look like. This is what it will feel like. What steps can I take to get there? You do that on your own individual life anyway. And then you sort of apply that on a community level. You can do it. That requires you meeting up with like-minded people and taking action. That's the main thing, not just thinking about it, not just talking about it. There's got to be a certain degree where you just do it.
And that's what we need right now.
I feel like it's simple, but I don't know. I feel like it's hard at first talking publicly in front of people. It's hard speaking, on videos like this, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to do what I'm doing or what you're doing. You can go face to face with a few people one at a time, bring that awareness, or if that's what you're doing. Or
you can even just go to your school and have a chat to the teacher, a principal, and ask them to run through the curriculum, or go and have really in-depth conversations with people at the school, for instance, because we're talking about schools and or the library, and go and just have some conversations and get curious. I think curiosity is a really good place to start. Get curious and start asking questions about things that you feel you care about.
And then after a while, if you feel like you have concerns and you don't know how to make the changes, you write those emails. Write to your local MPs, your senators, MLCs, mayors,
education boards,
and the board members of sport organisations or committee members. And you write to them, ask them the questions and make the requests. Asking a question is not going to hurt if you ask it in the right way. If you have good heart, a good intention behind what you're doing, they'll respond to you.
That takes courage, because we have been conditioned not to arc up, not to ask questions, to just go along with everything and not to. So you're going to have to do some inner work there to have the courage to do that, but you can do it. We can all do it. We've got to create this better world. We've got to just unprogram and unlearn a lot of the things that we've been conditioned to believe or think is right or whatever it is. It's just question.
Yep. If you have a problem and you think sometimes it's good to offer a solution as well, not just how do we get there. If you can come up with a solution, offer a solution. That they're more likely to listen if you have a solution. And I think a petition is not just say, I want to remove the books. No, I've got to offer a solution to the ones that might want it. So it's not a full book ban, but it is, let's allow people to still borrow the books, but they have to be restricted. And I think people can negotiate with that. That's in the grey area. It's more flexible, and I'm not personally attacking a group of people. And that's the important thing. You can't, because I don't know everyone. I don't know personally, and I wouldn't assume a certain group of people how they think or behave or anything like that. It's we just have to be respectful to all types of people in our community and all groups of people, and don't assume anything. Don't assume we know everything, because we don't. And
we're working it out, but we're trying to work it out to create a better world.
Well, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, encourage people that are feeling a little bit lost to contact me at Healthy Whole Humans, and we're creating community right now. This is what we're doing. We're creating the new world with community. So join us.
Yes,
we'll work it out together.
We'll get there. What I've noticed over the last couple of years is a lot more people are banding together and just having meetings, and they're meeting people. Like I without what happened in the last few years, I wouldn't have met you.
Yeah,
we had a reason to meet. Everyone meets people for a reason, and there's a lot of people I've been meeting that I normally wouldn't meet, and they're brilliant people. I have become more community minded where I wasn't before. And that's like you said about before, it's the conditioning that we've had. You know, I never knew my neighbours before too much either, and I'm starting to interact a bit more with my neighbours, and I think that's what we need to get back to. We need to be more interactive, more human, more loving.
Engage in your life. Actively engage in your life.
That's right.
We just need to take ownership of our own lives.
You know, and it's good to watch those videos. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of people sharing lots of things. You can go very deep down the rabbit hole to find information. Problem is, I find that you can get really stuck down the rabbit hole too.
Yeah.
And it's good to take a break. Whether there's a lot of things down those rabbit holes, I don't know what's true, what's not true. I've got my own thoughts and opinions about a lot of things. They're only good for allowing you to be flexible with your thinking. Whatever happens, whatever doesn't. But what I can control, what I can actively participate in, I will do if I can.
And to be more heart-led. I think we again, with the thinking, we've been trained to run everything through our mind. Does it all add up, blah, blah, instead of, living from our hearts. And what does our heart want? What does most excite us? And living with that joy, excitement.
That's right.
And we can't go wrong then. We're just
really
making great choices and doing amazing things when we live with our heart.
That's right. We have to do the activities that inspire us the most and be present in the moment. Sometimes there's time to think about planning future or think about whatever, but we need to be actively in the present, setting our intention to do good for the better for ourselves and our families and friends and community, and enjoy some of the outdoors. People think of meditation as, I won't touch on it too much, but they think of it as just sitting down in a quiet room, meditating. I call gardening my meditation. I like to get my hands dirty with dirt, and that's my meditation. Some people might find meditation, they might think of maybe just knitting or crocheting or whatever. Everyone's got, fishing.
Quilting.
Quilting, yeah. So everyone's got their own form of meditation, but it's a thing that you enjoy doing that keeps you in the moment, because there's a lot of stressful things that you could see in the world, and we just need to help ourselves grow and try to be as positive as we can with what we've got given to us.
For sure. And the future looks bright. I'm excited about what we're creating. There's so much great stuff out there, and we've done it. We're all good. You are part of that, Angela, and what you're doing. So thank you. Please, everyone that feels passionate about this, please sign the petition. I'll put it up on our website, healthywholehumans.com. I'll leave details below. Let's create this better world. Angela, do you want to say anything before we go?
Thanks again. I always appreciate you giving me a platform and a voice. I'm not an influencer. I'm just a mum.
Can you please take out that word just?
Well,
you're a mum, which is amazing.
I'm a mum. My priority are my kids, obviously. I have nephews as well. I'm just trying to do the best I can within my world, not just my own family, but within my community. I'm just doing what I can. Right. And that's what we all need to do, is do the best that we can. And I've got good intentions. I don't come with bad intentions. Just actively participate when you can.
There's a quote that says something like, it won't matter what I do, said 7 billion people. And it's like we all just, participate a little bit in our lives and we change everything. And that's what we're doing. So
that's right.
I invite everyone to come and join us in this adventure as we create the new world. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, Benita.